Yeah.
Hey,
up, brother?
welcome everybody to podcast number 43. Before we get started, I want to talk about our podcast sponsor, Edible Arrangements. They sell beautiful fruit bouquets that can be dipped in chocolate and delivered to that special somebody on their special day. A great alternative to flowers and candy. You like my voice right there? They also sell fresh fruit smoothies, fresh fruit boxes, fresh fruit and vegetable boxes, family fruit dipping kits, and a whole array of fruit snacks. Their showroom is located at 3 Reenders Drive, Suite 35B. You can call them at 204-669-6662 or order online at edibles.ca. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Have you ever had anything from Edible Arrangements
I
before?
have not, but I'm going to pursue that.
You heard of them, though?
Yeah. No, I haven't actually.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah, so
There you go.
Yeah.
Just
Do they,
picked up a new customer.
Do
Yeah.
they send you samples, your sponsors of things
Yeah,
that you can try?
They
Yeah.
do. So if you have a look at that banner right there, basically we shot a video for them, and what they do is they cut up the fruit, they dip it in chocolate or whatever it is that you want, and then they put it into a really nice display and send it. And the chocolate they use, I don't know, you know how like McDonald's has their secret sauce and
Yeah.
people just, whatever it is, it's like special chocolate.
Yeah.
So anything dipped in there, it's just amazing. So I personally feel like it's a great alternative to flowers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little more expensive, but you get way more. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's something that people will remember. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Unique.
You got it.
Strawberries and
Yeah.
chocolate. That's whoever came up with that combo. It's like, how did they do that?
Yeah.
It's like chocolate and peanut butter. You know those.
And how was that a
Reese's
romantic
Cups.
thing? Like, how did that become a romance thing?
I don't know.
How that
I
whole,
feel like all
whole
they
thing
did was
started.
melt some chocolate
Oh, there
onto
you
some
go.
body,
Melt some chocolate.
actual body, and
Yeah.
boom,
Yeah.
this is it, right?
And just the tasting of something, can create that kind of sensual
Yeah.
type
Well,
of
we were
thing.
talking about Seinfeld. Remember when George would be eating sandwiches while he'd be making love?
Tell me that.
And every
I don't
time
know
he
what
would
that
eat
means.
food.
Yeah.
So George started eating a sandwich while he'd be having sex.
Yeah.
And he eventually started to
there's
get
anything wrong with that.
he started whenever he would go out to eat, he would
Yeah.
have the same feelings. 'Cause
Okay.
He started associating
Yes.
the two. And they're like, "What is the matter with you, George?" And yeah, it was that's
Oh,
hilarious.
I don't
Yeah.
remember that at all, and
Yeah.
I remember a lot of stuff about
Yeah.
Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Interesting. How about we tell everybody who you are?
Let's
Okay.
do that.
Sound good? All right.
Sure.
So the man sitting next to me has been in the massage therapy industry for over 30 years and had spent 2 terms as the president of the Canadian Council of Massage Therapy Schools. He's worked with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and was part of the sports massage team for the 2004 Olympics in Athens, Greece. Played for the U of W volleyball team. Performed on Broadway. Was part owner of Earls Main Street and the original general manager. Worked in restaurants in New York, LA, and San Francisco. Everybody, let's welcome Garth Beddome. Garth, I gotta say, is that how I say your last name? Beddome?
No,
What is it?
Beddome.
Beddome.
Nobody.
All these years I've known you,
Nobody ever
never
gets
knew
it
that.
right.
You know, I should have.
Yours is more
Beddome.
common for sure, Beddome.
Yeah.
Beddome.
I need to improve on that because you're not the first name I've said wrong. So, before we get into it, I'm actually very intrigued about 2 things. Number one, your experience at the 2004 Olympics. I thought that's probably something that's pretty memorable in your life, hey?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you were part owner of Earls Main?
Yeah, small part. Yeah, not
Okay.
a big. And sometimes if somebody hears that, they think somehow I have a lot of money, but
Yeah.
I do not have a lot of money.
So what is a small part in a business? I never
Well,
understood
it
this.
was one of the things I loved about the Earls model in the sense that when you rise to a certain position, like a general manager, they actually encourage you buying into your restaurant
Nice.
because the more you are, feel like an owner and actually are an owner, the
Mhm.
more they feel like you're going to care like an owner.
Yeah.
So I thought
You're
that
more
was
likely to stick around longer.
yeah, and I thought that was a smart move on their part and stuff. So the opportunity was I opened a restaurant in San Francisco with Earls, and I was there for a year, and then an opportunity came to open one in Winnipeg, and to come back home was a great opportunity.
So are you American or are you Canadian?
No, I've lived in the U.S. for a lot of years. I moved there when I was 20 for theater and dance and stuff.
Okay.
So I've spent a lot of time there, but no, definitely Canadian.
Okay. Yeah, no, awesome. So,
that makes sense why you got into massage therapy because it's like an art, right? It's a movement.
You know what? I was dancing at the time, and I was hurt a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And the person that helped me the most was a massage therapist, and actually a rolfer as well. You may not know that term as easily, but that's another form of body work in that. And
Rolfer?
rolfing. I know it sounds like someone's going to get sick, but it's a deep structural integrative technique and very deep. And we actually teach elements of it in our school as well. But those were the people that helped me stay, healthy
Yeah.
that way.
What kind of dancing were you doing?
Well, Broadway stuff and that world is you have to be trained in all aspects of dance. So the core, basically the core for all the Broadway dancers was a ballet base, but you had to know tap, you had to know modern, you had to know jazz and stuff. So you're taking classes in everything, but ballet is always the great base to start with.
And are you still dancing today in any capacity?
No, what I did at the opening was I think I pulled a muscle. So it reminded me why
Just in front of the mirror?
I'm not a dancer anymore. No.
What's your favorite kind of music?
Favorite kind of music?
What
You
do
know
you like?
what? I'm really eclectic in my choices. I definitely I was in a band for a while, so we did a lot of like R&B. And did you ever see that movie, The Commitments?
No.
No. Oh.
Where is it a Netflix movie?
Seriously, we were talking about TV shows and stuff earlier. Commitments, one of the greatest movies about music. The Irish.
Really?
The Irish soul
Irish.
band. I'm black and I'm proud. That's what this Irish guy says.
So our audience, guys, if you have any questions about massage therapy or some of the stuff that's going on in that industry right now in phase 1, feel free to comment. If you have any other questions, feel free to comment. No question goes unanswered. So Garth, it's got to be transparency and only transparency.
Yeah.
A little background behind Garth and why he's on the show today. Sure. So Garth was, I think, my 3rd year of university going into athletic therapy. And I took anatomy, and then I immediately wanted to go into massage. I thought it would be, who doesn't want to take a course in massage, right? You're like, man, this is going to be awesome. So it was probably one of the very first, because they have layers of this. Like you couldn't take massage until like the 4th year of athletic therapy, but I was in my 2nd year of athletic therapy technically, and that was the first course I took, and I was really attracted to it, especially like the way that he taught it. And it was more or less about like getting in there and grinding on people's shoulders or getting in there and beating people up. Like, like what you think a massage therapist does, but it was more of an art. And the way that Garth taught it was all about like flow, and he related it a lot to martial arts. And so when I was giving massages, he taught us how to like really utilize your body so that you can do this for the long term. And in fact, I was actually considering doing massage therapy versus athletic. So this would have been a whole different story. Who knows? We could have ended up back here, and this could have been a massage therapy school or something. You know what I mean? But I was planning to do that, and it wasn't unless I approached my mom, and I said, "Mom, I really like this massage therapy, and I think I want to go into it." And I was gonna stop going to the University of Winnipeg and just let my athletic therapy degree stuff go and go right into massage. She said, "You know what? You've come this far. Why don't you just finish it?"
Yeah.
So otherwise, I would have been with you, Garth, and who knows? I probably could have been teaching at your college or something like
You
that.
could have been
like,
sitting in this spot.
yeah, exactly.
and I would be like,
you'd be at home
homeless or something.
kicking back or something.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because we do get a number of students from both U of W and U of M that either complete their AT training and then come and pursue massage therapy, or they do like what you were thinking about. It's like, you know what? I've kind of enjoyed this aspect of, what I'm learning in school. Maybe I'm more drawn to this approach than, ultrasound, electrical stim, some of the other modalities within that world. But it can be an either or approach to healthcare, or it can be a complement approach, utilizing massage therapy within these other modalities that you're trained in with athletic therapy. But it's pretty common where we get people from those different disciplines pursuing massage therapy.
And I guess it depends on which university or college you go to, because like at the University of Winnipeg, we were taught a lot of hands-on, right? So we were taught through.
I think a lot of that was Dr. Glenn Bergeron.
Yeah, Bergeron. I was taught by Trunzo, so
Yeah.
and everything was about manual manipulation. One of our old coaches here, he's the same thing from the same school, so we're all about the hands-on.
Yeah.
And I think that it makes a huge difference. I haven't had one, and now I practice a lot of self-care on my own. I stretch first thing in the morning, like mobility, flexibility, that kind of stuff, and then we always do a 5 to 7 minute stretch after we do our workouts now, which is like a huge compliment, and so it helps us withstand our body. So let me ask you this: what is a life cycle of a massage therapist?
Ooh, it's a question we get a lot. Especially when people come for tours and they want to learn more about the profession, and obviously longevity is something that people talk about. And the point you made earlier about my emphasis on teaching the work with kind of almost like a dance-like flow, I think the more you pay attention to your own biomechanics and the less tension you have in your own body as a therapist, the longer you're going to be able to last in the profession. So technique and your own personal health are critical to longevity. So we focus on that at the school, tons. Technique. Care. You need to care for yourself as much as you're thinking about how you care for this other person.
The massage therapists I know, they pretty much grind themselves to the bone with work, and they just like they don't ever really practice self-care themselves.
Well, and that's
You find that, or
I think you see that in a lot of the healthcare professionals.
True.
You know, like look
True.
at these nurses and doctors and people that are throwing themselves on the
Yeah.
front lines, and it's all about patient-centered. You know, what do I have to do to care for this person? And you put yourself second, third, or fourth, and yeah, that is going to shorten your career dramatically, because there's no way of getting around the fact that what we do is a very physical thing. Yes, there's elements within the massage therapy world, within the modality choices that can be less physical, craniosacral, hot stone, different techniques that maybe aren't quite as physical. But at the end of the day, it's still you doing this work it's literally hands-on.
Yeah.
So I just want to give a shout out. I know the frontliner workers respect everything that you guys are doing, and I don't know, the cases are down now, so they're probably little less worked. But I want to take a minute and thank the people working at Dollarama. I want to thank the people working at No Frills. I want to thank the people that are working at Walmart. I think that they don't get enough, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not celebrities, but it's like every time I drive by the Dollarama, there's 30 cars out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and then you go to No Frills, and there's a 30-person lineup, and they don't have PPEs and gloves. Like, they now have gloves, and they finally put up these glass shields for most of them. But man, these guys are the ones that you gotta go to the grocery store. And if you're sick and you're in quarantine and there's nobody else to help you, and they're not doing the grocery delivery, you got to eat, right? So there's those people that could have it, that they're on the verge. There's like, I'm self-quarantining, but they're still going out because they got to eat. If you're by yourself, you got to go. And if they don't have anybody to call, hey, can you bring me groceries and that, they're out there. And so the people that are serving us, maybe not, you know, they don't have the PhDs and degrees and stuff. I think that we got to show them a little bit of love too.
For sure.
Totally agree. And meat processing plants, you know, and those.
You got it.
There's a lot of stuff that goes on to run this world, right?
Totally.
I think a lot of people don't get credit for.
Yeah.
And I love it. Like when people bring us food, hint, hint. You know what I mean? It really,
we hint that every day.
It goes a long. It goes a long way.
Chocolate strawberries.
It goes.
Absolutely,
Kyla, send us a bouquet here. You know, but it does go a long way because we do give a lot, and honestly, when people give us public recognition, and as much as you don't want to be in the show, it's nice to be known that you're appreciated, right?
Absolutely.
And food is always way to our hearts.
And these aren't high paying jobs. And so a lot of times people that are in, you know, lower economic situations, they're not always able to have the best food themselves and the best nutrition themselves. So they can be vulnerable to picking up things and stuff. So huge shout out.
Let me backtrack this a little bit. I want to tell a quick story about how massage therapy changed my life. Okay. So
there we go.
When were you and I traveling in Hawaii? Was it 2 years ago now, RJ, when I buggered up my knee?
Oh, and then we went to that hut.
Like we're on the mountain, remember?
Yeah.
2 years
ago, yeah.
So 2 years ago we were traveling, and of course, because we are who we are, we had to do chin-ups on a tree. We just finished climbing this mountain. It was like 2 hours. Straight up. Monster hike. We get into this big, whose dick is bigger challenge. So we're doing chin-ups.
Who's the whale?
Yeah. Who's got the best dork?
Who's the dork?
Anyways, as I'm coming down, I hit this part of my knee. Okay, so I hit a little thing that's sticking out of the tree. Not only that, I had to walk down this mountain, and it completely hurt. Fast forward about 2 or 3 months, and I can't even stand it anymore. I can't be on my knee. I couldn't coach anymore. I'm basically sitting in this corner while I'm running a 40-person class. Anyways, through some connections of his, I went and saw a doctor, and I had some compromised stuff in my knee. What I never did up to that point was ever have a massage on a consistent basis. I may have had 3 or 4 up to that point my entire life. So with my doctor, my personal doctor, with this doctor, and then I found a massage therapist. So I actually had to work on my testosterone levels and then get massages, and that actually cured my knee. It's 100% now.
Yeah.
So I'm the biggest believer in everything that you do, massage therapy. I feel like everybody really needs to have a hands-on experience, pushing, pulling, touching your muscles, pushing really hard on it. So I would encourage everybody, if you care about your overall wellness, get into a massage therapy routine. Get somebody that that can put their hands and dig into you a little bit. Absolutely.
And I think we're seeing more and more of that all the time. Like when I first started doing this so many years ago, people did kind of look at massage therapy as more of just a relaxation or
that's how I saw it.
yeah, a gift certificate for your mother for Mother's Day.
Yes.
But they did not realize the many components to the work that we can do and how we can help you with rehabilitation, with rebalancing, working with your structure to make everything you do more pain-free. So I always love when I hear people talk about positive stories they have with massage therapists on that level.
I didn't realize that working on my neck or on my shoulder on the right side of my body would actually affect my left knee. Yeah. And it did. I was so unbalanced and everything was so tight and pulling in the wrong direction. So, and the guy that does my massage therapy, he was very good. He gave me some stretches. He told me the things that I needed to improve on. And for the most part, I took his advice and it worked. Yeah. You know, it was great. I really have nothing but great things to say about massage therapy.
Well, when I was probably about 15 years into my practice or so, I felt like there was something else I needed to add. And I actually thought about when you were talking about, do I want massage therapy or ET? I thought about chiropractic and I thought, is that an angle I want to go to? And I ended up kind of veering towards what's called structural integration. And a lot of what you talked about is how we focus working with people. So you might come in with, a problem in your hip, but it really is the core of the problem is somewhere else. Maybe it's in your foot. Yeah. Maybe you have a pet planus or something.
That's exactly what I realized.
The person coming to see you, they don't understand that. They just know, hey, why aren't you working on my hip?
You're right.
Well, you know what? Sometimes that's not the epicenter of the problem. And that's not where the focus needs to be. Sometimes, it is where the focus needs to be, but probably many times it's someplace else. So helping to educate people on that and why we work in certain areas and in certain ways is really critical to them having a good experience with a massage therapist. Because at the end of the day, everybody has the same expectation, right? Is I'm coming to you, whether you're a physio, an AT, a chiro, a massage therapist, I'm coming to you because I'm somehow in pain and I need you to help me resolve that. Yeah. They don't necessarily care how you get there, and there are many roads to the same destination. Yeah. So as long as we can be patient-centered and help people in that way, then I think the profession's always going to be seen as a necessary component to the healthcare team.
Yeah, you bet.
Well, look at you guys got opened up in phase 1.
Yeah, which was kind of weird to some of us.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah. What do you want to know?
So what's
I want to know exciting.
Why do you feel or why do you think that number one, you guys were allowed to open up first? My thing is like they won't open up a gym. We're in phase 3, so we were first to close, we're the last to open, and they feel like this is going to be a breeding ground for disease, right? And I get it, whatever, sure. And then, but when you talk about massage therapy, I mean, there's nothing more intimate and in your space than massage therapy and hair cutting. Like you can't cut a hair without touching somebody. Yeah, you can't give a massage. I mean, you can do Reiki and all that, but nobody's gonna. The majority of people are not going to do Reiki. They're going to do, and Reiki is where you just kind of like hover around the body.
Touch is a pretty critical component to what
it's a little bit, right? So give us your viewpoint on that. And nobody's quoting you on this, Garth. The massage therapy governor, they can deal with that after. So
well, my thoughts on that are, on one level, I'm happy. Yeah, obviously, because so many of our graduates are able to go back to work. But at the same time, I'm concerned for them too, in that are we ready where we're at within this pandemic for any of these frontline people that we talked about earlier? I feel bad about any of them having to put themselves in potentially harm's way. So that was one of the first things I thought about was I hope all the therapists are, considering their own safety and well-being as much as they're, considering everybody else.
So is your school open?
No. And that was one of my other ones, in the sense that, okay, you're now telling us we can touch people. You're telling us we can have 10 people on a patio. And when I was first hearing about that, I was like, okay, do you mean like 10 people spaced out 6 feet apart? And they said, no, they can just be 10 people from different households sitting beside each other. Yeah. So you're saying we can touch, you're saying we can do that. Yeah. So why can't I at least bring some students back into the school? Because I'm so frustrated for my students in that this is not what they deserve with their education or anybody's education, whether it's university or Red River or whatever. So it's killing me that we can't bring people back. So I watch that news daily, just looking for some glimpse of hope that we're going to be included in the next phase of reopening, because I believe we can do it in a safe way. And we're never going to put students in harm's way. and we're never going to put our clients that come to us for our clinic, we're never going to put them in harm's way. And massage therapy has always been a profession where, cleaning your table, cleaning your sheets, cleaning your hands, all of that stuff has always been part of our,
Exactly.
code of ethics, scope of practice, and just the way we do things.
Yeah.
So if there's an area that can be done other than the direct touch, without some considerations, I think ours is one. And the world needs what we provide
Absolutely.
right now.
So how did you pivot? Are you online? You doing?
We did.
Yeah.
And thankfully, my director, Nikki Spence, and my CFO, Patty Boga, I was away in California when this all kind of went down. And those two were like, okay, like what we were talking about for Justin Bateman on Ozark.
Yep.
The mind starts spinning the minute he gets put in a bad situation.
Yep.
Those two were like pit bulls on trying to create solutions. And so they built an online model, and we shared that with the instructors, and then my instructors were all on board. And, we talked about Dr. Bergeron and Ben Trinzo. They're on my faculty, and I'm surrounded by brilliance. And then my students, the same thing. They got on board. They said, okay, what do we got to do? Thank you for doing this, and we're going to work at home. And some of them are struggling, no doubt, because they miss the community of the school. They miss the hands-on. That's what
Well, they
they
can
were
always come
drawn
down
to.
here, and we're always ready for some hands-on
Well,
action
if
here.
they
Rick?
could come here, they
Yeah,
could
we'll
come to
space you
me.
out.
Yeah.
Space you out. Don't worry. We're not open for business.
So it's frustrating, no doubt, on that level. But thankfully, again, like I said, I'm surrounded by really, really smart people and really compassionate people that have done the best we can to switch the model to online.
Yeah.
But like we were saying before, this, you can't learn massage therapy online.
Yeah.
You can learn about anatomy, you can learn about nutrition, you can learn about theoretical stuff, but the best teacher of this work is touch.
Right.
And the more bodies you touch, the more situations you can be in. That's why within the curriculum of the school, we have them work with athletes, we have them work with people with arthritis, we have them work with people with special needs, because touching different people and different tissue and different bodies in different states is always going to be the best teacher.
Yeah.
Your teacher can talk all day about, here's scar tissue, here's what it feels like, but until you get to feel it, I think your level of understanding goes there. And that's what kind of got us going with the Bombers. I'd done work with them for a number of years, and I thought, well, it would be great to bring my students here, and give them this experience of working with this level of athlete and feeling this tissue, whether it's injury related or just even stress release for them. And you can always see the look on their faces after they get to work in that environment. It's just like, wow, what a great learning experience that was. I've been working on my classmate, Linda, for the last 6 months, and Linda's like the healthiest person in the world. So, what am I learning?
Right.
So bringing in that element of practical work with different, parts of the community is critical, and we can't do that online.
What length of time does it take to become certified, start to finish?
Well,
What's that program?
Canada has some of the highest standards in the world.
Okay.
My original school was back in New York. It was the Swedish Institute. It was 8 months that I studied, and at that time, this is way, way back, it was one of the highest standards in the U.S. for studying at 8 months. And even still, in the U.S., I think average length of training for a massage therapist is somewhere between 6 months and a year.
Okay.
Whereas in Canada, it's now become fairly standard that we're looking at about 2 years. But we don't always talk about time as much as we talk about competencies. There's a certain set of skill sets and performance indicators related to our curriculums that we have to meet in order to match the standards of what's happening within the regulated provinces. There's 5 regulated provinces in Canada right now. Manitoba is in the queue to become a regulated province, but we have a number of other healthcare professionals ahead of us right now, paramedics and physios, I think, lab technicians and stuff. So we're still looking at like 1 or 2 years, I think, before we become a regulated province.
Okay.
But once you're regulated, again, there's a brighter light that's shone on you as a healthcare professional. Yeah. Things get heightened, disciplinary process, code of conduct, standards, things that the associations are kind of trying to govern and monitor as best they can currently, but the regulatory college will do that when it's developed. But on average, you're probably looking at 2 years. Some students
a lot longer than I thought it was going to be.
You know
to be
what?
honest.
Most people are amazed by that when they see our curriculum
Yeah.
and they see that, hey, you learn about anatomy, physiology, assessment, public health, ethics. And it's like, I had no idea all of that was a part of the education for a massage therapist.
Yeah.
So Garth, can we talk about phase one precautions that are is it implied or is it a standard practice that massage therapists that are actually treating right now that they got to follow? Like what are the rules? What are the regulations set out for phase one massage therapists?
I'm not as maybe the best one to talk about on that one, other than what I've been seeing in the papers myself.
Okay.
And like I said,
So what is it? Like we don't know.
Well,
it doesn't have to be right, Garth.
well,
Please stop being so political. Come on.
I've often spoken and it wasn't right. So
Okay,
why
this is
should
not
today be any different?
Let's go.
But I think the biggest thing is ensuring that, like if let's say you have a clinic and you have multiple people coming to the location, there's got to be, social distancing in that environment. So in many situations, I think people are like staying in their cars, and then when the environment is ready for them, they get a phone call, they can come into the clinic. So I think you're seeing that in a lot of like hairstylists, and a lot of different people are kind of following that protocol. Yeah. But like I said, the standards of cleanliness and hand washing, all those different things that people talk so much about how important that is in this pandemic, they've always been important for us to do. And so it really hasn't changed much from that standpoint. Obviously, some therapists are wearing masks, some aren't, some are wearing shields, so there's different levels.
So that's not mandated, because I've reached out to a couple massage therapists and they're waiting until the air clears, because they don't have access to masks. They don't have access to face shields. Apparently you're supposed to throw away the gowns and have gloves and
so no, I don't think you have to have gloves. In fact, I'm pretty sure
that was
don't.
early on when they said that was the Wednesday I contacted somebody. So things might have loosened up a little bit, but that was kind of like what they got from the massage. Like I saw the email.
Yeah, I don't think the gloves are mandatory. I don't even think the masks necessarily are mandatory. I could be wrong on that one for sure. And I think sometimes, or all the time, it comes down to personal level of comfort by both the patient client and the therapist. Like you said, there's a number of people that are like, yeah, I would love to get a massage, but I still don't feel great about putting myself in that environment. And you have therapists that feel the same way as well. Many of them have children at home and families, and they're cognizant of the fact they might be bringing something home by putting themselves out there again.
Just to get a massage.
So everybody's still kind of in this.
How do you personally feel? Are you okay with lying on a table and letting somebody work on you right now? Would you be okay with it?
I think I would. I mean, I want to ask a lot of the key questions.
Yeah, sure.
That everybody's asking and stuff.
But you're ready. You're ready, right?
Well, I'm also in a situation where I'm not bringing something home to a group of people. I think if I was living in that environment, like earlier I talked about my mother's 87 years old, and I haven't, I couldn't hug her on Mother's Day. I haven't been around her and stuff. That's been the hardest thing for me in the pandemic. Yeah. And it would kill me to know that I was potentially bringing something into her environment that could kill her. Yeah. So I think that's massage therapists by nature are compassionate, caring people, and they put their focus on the patient and not themselves. So they put their focus on their families and not themselves. So I think what's scaring them the most in this environment is not doing the work, but how they could potentially maybe be bringing something home to others. But I think everybody's kind of feeling that, right?
So how long do you think that feeling is going to last?
I think we're going to, the science is going to be a big part of that.
So you think one day they have a vaccine, right? So
that'll be huge.
Okay, so they get a vaccine in September,
that'd be huge.
Do you feel like everybody is going to go back to normal living? Hey, we got this vaccine, right? Everybody's like, well, we don't have a vaccine yet. Okay, cool. We have a vaccine in September. Do you think that everybody is going to have that mindset that they're going to go back to massage therapy, that they're going to go back to a packed gym? Like, is that going to happen, or is that going to take time?
I think it'll take time. Yeah. I think for sure things like vaccines and other viral, medications that can help, offset the effects of it. I think those are going to be huge. And I think it's like anything, how when you're in one of those terrible situations and all of a sudden you become religious and you say, oh God, if you just get me out of this, I'm going to quit smoking.
Yes, exactly.
And then 2 weeks later you're smoking again or something. Yeah. But I am hopeful that people are on two levels are going to change dramatically. One is going to be the point we were talking about earlier about the best defense against things like this is your own personal health. The better your own health is, the better you're going to be able to withstand, the effects of some of these types of, and that's true for any type of disease. So I think there's going to be a higher focus on people considering the role of what they contribute to society and being healthier themselves.
Yeah.
But then I also think people are realizing how much they miss touch and contact in their life.
Yeah.
And there's a great book. It was written, I forget the author's name, but it's called Life 3.0. And he talks about life in the age of artificial intelligence. And we see all these things around us that are becoming robots and machines on assembly lines, and how many occupations and professions have changed or disappeared. But the one thing that will never change is the need for human touch. So a profession like massage therapy is always going to be in demand, and I think even more so when this is all over and people can reconnect again with their physical selves and their emotional selves, and massage therapy is a great avenue for people to be able to do that.
Yeah, agreed. I want to pivot this conversation to your experience at the Olympics.
Okay.
So explain to everybody, what was your role there? Did you put your hands on some athletes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know if you were running
We
it
I was
or if
selling
you were
popcorn at the concession stand.
I didn't know if you were like the leader of your team and they did it, or if you were actually a hands-on guy.
Yes.
I didn't quite figure it out from here.
Once I realized that I lacked the skill to make any of the Olympic teams.
You didn't make the volleyball team for Team Canada?
No, I was
at 5'9".
I was just I appreciate you giving me 5'9".
I know, because I'm 5'9" too, right?
I look taller sitting down.
Yeah.
Yes. Once I realized I had no chance of ever doing that, and I love being a part of sports. I love being part of a team that is helping somebody or a group of people, work towards a worthy ideal.
Yeah.
Like, winning something or working together towards something. That I love being a part of that.
Of course, yeah.
And massage therapy, and actually the Olympics that I was fortunate to be selected for, that was the first Olympics in 2004 where massage therapy was a part of the core medical team.
Okay.
In the past, we'd always been, in some tent off by the side, and athletes would have to kind of hunt us out, and especially when you're an athlete that's, your routines are very regimented, and having someone you don't know work on you prior to something as important as an Olympic event is something you don't necessarily want to mess with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But in Athens, there was, at every site, there was an AT, there was a paramedic, there was a nurse, there was a massage therapist. So we were part of the core medical team. And then my favorite part of it, I worked the canoe kayak for much of the time I was there.
Okay.
But then I also worked the road race, and then I had a chance to work in the Olympic Village, which was just crazy awesome.
Yeah.
And to be surrounded by all these different athletes. My favorite memory is the village is so big that there's buses that take you from where the athletes are living to where they might be eating and all that kind of stuff. And I got on the bus one day, and you just looked at it down the bus, and there was like jerseys from every country in the world and all these different people talking in different languages, and it was just such a cool experience.
Yeah, for sure.
But in the Olympic Village, the work I did there, I got to work on athletes from all different countries, from all different sports, which is what I loved with the Canada Games as well, that that I was a part of here in 2017. I had a team of about 30 therapists, and we did over 1,500 massages with literally from every sport and from every province in the country. And so one minute you got a soccer player coming in, the next minute you got a volleyball player coming in, you got someone coming in from the Yukon, someone from Alberta, and you're basically, you're working constantly. And by the time you look up at the clock, it's been like 6 hours, but you've loved it because of how you've contributed to helping this athlete perform or maybe recover from an injury or something.
Did you put your hands on anybody that won a gold medal? Do you remember?
You know what? I don't think I did.
No.
No, I was trying to think back, but I don't think I did. I didn't really monitor that so much.
Yeah, I imagine you're probably pretty busy.
I was so busy, but some people did.
Yeah.
Actually, my favorite thing was I'm Irish. Not was Irish. I'm still Irish. Yeah. What time did this podcast start? I was Irish at the beginning of it.
You're still Irish.
I'm
Nothing changed.
I'm still thinking I'm Irish.
Yeah.
So I was working at the road race site, and I'd worked on one of the Irish riders and stuff.
Okay.
And whenever it's funny, maybe it's my theater background, but whenever I'm around somebody that has an accent, I start talking with that accent.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Sometimes I think I might get punched one day because someone thinking I'm making fun of them or something.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I worked on this guy, and he went out and competed, and then later on, hours later, he came back. And he was so incredibly excited, and he was on his phone talking to his family. His coach was there, and he came into the massage room, and I'm like, hey, obviously a gold, a silver, a bronze, and that. He'd finished like I think 15th or something, but it was the highest an Irish rider had ever finished in that sport.
Yeah.
So that was an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah, we're talking road bikes. Is that what you mean riding?
This one, yeah, and there's a lot of different levels of bike races.
That's pretty good because there's hundreds of those guys that ride at once. So 15 is good. I'd be excited too.
I always feel so bad for those people that you train your whole life, you get this thing, you're on the start line, the whistle goes, the gun goes, and boom, some guy cuts you off, you wipe out. Boom, it's over. Yeah. So, my God, can you imagine living with that? Yeah. The training, the focus, the money, all that, and then boom, your big moment is over. Yeah. So that's one of the things I love about working with the athletes as well, is the dynamic of highs and lows that you work with and trying to help people through that with the care you're giving them.
What was the recruitment process? How did they get you and your team? Like, how do you get hired for this? Did you just put a call out there? And
for the Canada Games, I was approached by Dr. Bergeron, who was the head medical for the Canada Games, and he and I have a long history. He was, and RJ knows him well. He was one of our teachers when we were in AT. But when I played for the volleyball team for UW, he was our athletic therapist for the team. So I've known him since I was like 18, 19 and that. And the minute I bought my school, he was one of the first people that I went after to become part of the faculty because he is such a brilliant guy and I have such incredible respect for him. Him and Al Couture for the Bombers are two of my favorite guys that are in that kind of world and stuff. But he had approached me about being involved with the Canada Games as the chief massage therapist. So knowing he was at the helm and at the top, I always want to be involved with great people, and they encouraged me for that. Okay. For the Olympics, I had put in an application.
Okay, so that's how it works. Do you get paid for that, or is it a volunteer basis?
No, there was fundraising things that were done that were made available to us, and then we had created the organizers of the team had created pins, these special sport massage pins. I still actually have a lot of them, and they were made available to us to sell to people in order to raise money, because plane ticket to Athens and all that kind of stuff, accommodations, and none of that was cheap for sure.
What about the U.S. team? Is that probably covered?
Yeah, is that a different dynamic?
And that's true. That's true for, like, I was with an international sports massage team, and there was therapists on our team from all over the world. But there's also sport specific teams for each country. Like Canada will bring, 8 to 10 massage therapists to the Olympics, but that's not many for the amount of athletes we have to care for. And a team like the U.S., believe me, they have specialists that they would bring. So the way it generally works is the Olympic Committee will select a team, and then each individual sport has a certain number of people that they can bring as well within their healthcare team, because the higher up the food chain the elite athlete is, like a Donovan Bailey is a great example for the Olympics. I guarantee you that guy had his own chiro, his own massage therapist. He would get 2 90-minute massages a day within his training week. And so he's not going to want to take a chance of having somebody work on him that he doesn't know for something as important as the Olympics. So again, the higher up,
take his own.
And the more money that there is involved within a certain area, like the dream team, right? Those guys aren't hurting for cash. I guarantee you, they've all got their own massage therapist. And there is not an elite athlete out there that doesn't have a massage therapist involved. And if they don't, they're missing a massive opportunity to find a competitive edge.
Yeah. Well, for our audience there, I call them like everyday athletes, right? And you either pay with your time or you pay with your money. And if you're not doing one or the other, meaning if you're not doing self-care, right? So we say for every 30 minutes of working out that you should do at least 10 minutes of mobility, right? Like if you're working out every single day, there should be a time where you're putting 10 minutes in. And if you're not doing that, then you should be. At one point in time, I was seeing I fractured my knee last February, and I was seeing an athletic therapist, I was seeing a physio and a massage therapist, all within the same month, and a chiropractor, and it was all layered, right? And so I did my time, and I paid with my money because I was mobility, flexibility, all that kind of stuff. And fast forward to a year later, and I'll get out there and I'll whip somebody's butt on the b-ball court, or I'll do these workouts 7 days a week. You know what I mean? Whereas somebody else that's the same age and with the same injury, it would take them decades to get better if they do get better.
Yeah.
And so if people right now, if you're not comfortable with seeing a massage therapist, then you need to start taking care of yourself. And even if you're not working out, I think that people should do some type of movement and mobility every single day.
Yeah.
Because everything gets shortened. We sit lots, right? And
Yeah.
even if you walk lots, and our people are the opposite, Garth. So our people are not the ones that are sitting on the couch watching Netflix all day. They do that, but they also go through extreme activities. We offer
I do that.
Yeah.
I do that.
We do 2 workouts a day, right?
Yeah, you guys would be more in the category of injury recovery,
Yes.
and it's like, tissue regeneration
Yeah.
and the different nutrients you guys take. That's another role of
Yeah.
helping you, withstand the intensity of the impacts that you guys put on your bodies.
That's right.
And that's the delicate line with elite athletes, right? Is this line between intensity of training in order to develop the skill set. But if you cross that line of intensity and get into the injury phase, well, then you're, it's obviously very detrimental.
So for our clients and our audience, right, you're looking at anywhere from, we have some younger people, but generally between 35 and 50 is like our age category. Females do tons of training. And so what are some recommendations that they can do right now while they're staying home?
What can you do to yourself?
Yeah.
Like from a massage standpoint?
Yeah.
Or just your own personal opinion. How do you take care of yourself?
Well,
and how would you tell somebody else?
I like red wine. So
They're already on that, Garth. Don't you worry about that.
okay, I probably shouldn't be promoting that.
It's okay.
Probably
You don't want him
shouldn't.
to be political? He's not being political. What else you got? What kind of wine?
Actually, I think
How many glasses?
Yeah. And when is it appropriate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of guy. Yeah. It's happy hour somewhere, right?
Yeah,
If
exactly.
you Australia, there's a different time zone.
Red wine, number one.
Red wine.
So like a
That'll-
muscle relaxer.
That's a
kinda
muscle
what it
relaxer.
is, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we edit this at all? This podcast?
Jerome, can we edit that out?
Yeah, I'm kidding. I think people know we're kidding, so
Yeah.
that's good.
Hey, we
That's
got more people tuned in now.
All the
Because we brought
winos.
up
Yeah.
wine.
Wine.
Yeah, I think it's for sure it's a combination of things. We were talking earlier before we were live about the different aspects of healthcare that are critical. How you eat, how you move within your life. Like you said, are you in a sedentary job where you're constantly sitting? Your hip flexors are short, your hamstrings are short. So how are you moving? How are you bringing in modalities like massage into your life from a healthcare standpoint? So what can you do at home? I know people are doing yoga. I know people are meditating. I know people like myself. I started doing my P90X, CDs. I've been focusing a lot on my eating and focusing a lot on my movement as best I can. From a self massage standpoint, there's certain areas of your body. Obviously, you can't work like your back and your shoulders. It's difficult to do, but there's things you can do with like a tennis ball or another kind of
Lacrosse ball.
soft kind of ball, harder kind of ball, depending on that. You
For
can
me, if
roll
I
on
need
that.
like a simulated deep tissue massage, and really the deep tissue is about getting in there. So I'll use a lacrosse ball, but if
Right.
people are looking for that overall muscle relaxation, is a hot soak, like from the neck
Yeah.
and get sweaty in there. Like it's not a comfortable bath. I'm not talking about a bath.
Yeah.
I've sat in my bath sometimes and they're so hot that I'm sweating. Right. And
Yeah.
that's like because I want to get that blood circulation. And there's areas I just can't stretch, like this part of my neck. Right. Like,
Yeah.
but that heat is just beautiful and it just gets the blood flowing. So that's how I would tell somebody if they're looking for a full relaxation, kind of like similar
Absolutely.
feeling, get into a hot bath.
And we work within thermotherapy within our curriculum and helping students understand the right time to use
Actually,
ice and cold, the right time
Yeah.
to use heat.
yes, hot and cold. That's an important one too that I learned.
Huge
Yeah, big time.
inflammation. I mean, you bring the wrong elements of temperature into tissue at the wrong time. You're
Yeah.
going to exacerbate a problem.
Okay.
For
So
sure.
Go ahead.
give us a specific example. So I've got a sore quad.
Okay.
Hot and cold. What am I doing to it? Just give me some quick. Do I ice it? Do I heat it? Do I stretch it?
Yeah, it depends on the stage of that soreness.
It
So
just happened in my last workout, literally an hour ago.
Are you relating this to like a DOM situation, delayed onset muscle soreness, or you're relating this to like an injury?
Not an injury.
Not an injury.
Not an
So
injury.
it's more of a DOMS thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've done a hard workout,
Mhm.
you've created some micro trauma
Okay.
within the tissue, which we kind of consider like a therapeutic inflammation because that's how the body responds and develops and gets stronger, right? You need to kind of break it down a little bit so it can rebuild itself
got it.
stronger.
Yep.
It's when you cross that line of intensity and you go into a macro damage that now you're dealing with an injury process.
Okay.
So I'll delve into the injury a little bit more because that's more critical of someone understanding what to do. If you go into that macro injury state and you're dealing with an acute injury, absolutely you're looking at rest, you're looking at ice, you're looking at elevation depending on the body part, you're looking at maybe supports like crutches or slings or tape jobs or things.
Yep.
You need to take stress off that tissue, and you need to do things that try to reduce the inflammatory stage because the body will tend to overdo that. That's why people talk so much about the importance of getting ice in an area quickly. The more you can reduce the swelling and the more you can reduce the inflammatory component of the acute injury stage, the less likely scar tissue is going to develop, and the sooner you're going to move somebody into what we call the subacute healing stage, which is where we start to do some of our best work. That's when some of the scar tissue is starting to be laid down, and we can start to mobilize that tissue in a way that it's going to be as functional or as close to functional as the previous tissue it's replacing. So that's kind of an injury mindset. But if we're looking more at kind of like how you suggested, like a DOMS type of thing.
Yeah, just a hard workout and you want to give yourself a little self-care at home.
I think the stretch component afterwards is critical.
Okay.
I'm a big believer in a ballistic style stretching prior to your activity as opposed
Dynamic
to
warm-up.
Yeah, dynamic, absolutely, as opposed to a static type approach, which a lot of the research indicates that that can create a weakening of tissue, and you can actually reduce your performance potential by doing too much static stretching.
That's our policy around here.
Well, and that's what the science tells us, right?
Yeah.
But even with the dynamic stretching, you never do that. Don't do that with a cold tissue. And that's where people get into trouble, right? They start going into either too intense of a movement pattern from a range standpoint, and when the tissue's not ready to be taken to that degree, and that's when a tissue can tear and injure itself.
Yeah.
So I think a slow, dynamic stretch routine at the beginning to increase the core body temperature.
Okay.
It's like the heat for the bath that RJ was talking about. That's going to dilate blood vessels. The more blood you can bring to a muscle prior to activity, the better the chances of you being able to perform. You're bringing oxygen to the tissue. You're bringing nutrients to the tissue.
Yeah.
So after the event, when you've created some damage within that tissue, you need to try and calm that down a little bit. And part of the ways you do that is through a cool down, just gradually bring down your core temperature. Static stretching, again, within a pain-free range that encourages the appropriate length between the actin-myosin filaments within the sarcomeres. We're getting maybe too deep into the science here. But doing that, and then there's a role for ice in that in those immediate hours or even for that day post the activity. But very soon after, I would say in the 24 to 48, depending on the severity of the DOMS, the more uncomfortable you feel 24 to 48 hours, the more likely you did do maybe some more damage than you think. And there's still a role for coolness within that area.
Okay.
But then shortly after, you want to get blood flow to an area. As long as there's no inflammation in there, you want to encourage circulation. I don't know if we have time to talk about the bomber recovery protocol that Al Couture created.
We got about 5 minutes. So
okay.
Layman's.
I'll talk real quick.
Remember, our audiences are not scientists.
But hold on, you never answered my question. I just want to know. So I got a bad quad. I put ice on it. Then am I heating it, or am I just give me the actual protocol? Just give some.
Well, if we're gonna do massage with it, warmth.
No massage.
Okay.
It's just me at home. I got a sore quad, and it's 1 hour after my workout.
1 hour. I would say,
or 30 minutes.
I would say gentle stretch, and I would say ice. And I'm not going to get into, anti-inflammatory meds and things like that. But that would be 24 hours maybe. See how you feel the next day. If it's starting to resolve itself, then you can start thinking about heat and maybe more.
Okay, so not heat and ice, just ice.
Well, there is a rule for heat and ice, but that's usually within injury when we're trying to create a contract. Dilate, contract, that can help move inflammation out of an area.
Okay.
So
understood. That's good. That's what I was looking for.
More technical there too.
Because we have those issues, right? And people always ask us, what can I do for a sore muscle?
Yes.
So,
but again, bringing heat in too early into something is going to do more damage. And in people's minds, they love heat, right? Oh, the hot bath. Oh, it feels good. Yeah. But if you've got an injury going on in there, you don't want to be creating dilation.
Yeah, frozen peas on your knees sucks.
Yeah.
But it's great when it's done.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like when you see all these football players jumping into these ice baths.
You ever done that?
I did. Well, you know what? I love Thermea. You ever gone there? And it took me a while to kind of work up the courage to like run through the cold pool and stuff. And I see some people, they're swimming, doing the backstroke in there. And I'm like, what are you doing? Get out of there and go to the hot tub. But that role, and that's part of their philosophy, right, is this dynamic of contract, dilate, contract, dilate. And there are massive amounts of studies that support the health benefits of that type of approach.
So would you say if somebody's got sore muscles that they should put the ice on there? Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of now. I'm from the old school, and I've actually had a couple debates with guys that are more up to date with it than me. And some guys say no ice at all, ever.
Really?
Yeah, because it causes the tissue to become necrotic. It causes the tissue to stiffen up, right?
I think it really depends on what is causing you to feel this discomfort. Is it micro trauma? Is it macro trauma? If it's inflammation from a severe type of, if you've got like a second degree tear or something, I've not heard any science that tells me not to try and calm that inflammation down.
I feel like both of you are right because there's too many variables in this
yes, and
scenario,
I sure don't
right?
want to make it sound like there's a cookie cutter approach for everybody. That's why it's so important that therapists do good assessments and they have good health histories that they do with people to try and understand exactly what brought you here today and what stage you are in within the recovery of this injury, because a lot of times people will wait way too long before they'll go see somebody.
They always do.
We men are worse for that, right? I'll just work it out. I'll stretch it out.
Throw some dirt on it. Walk it off.
I'll get some Dr. Pepper. That's my.
While I got you, we're going to wrap it up, but I want to ask you this. So anytime I have a person that's a little bit older than me, not much, but a little bit.
Pointing at me?
Yeah. I always like to get advice. I feel like the greatest advice you can get is from people that are a little bit older than you. Now that I have you at this table here, what I want to know is forget what you do for a living. We're done with that, okay? I want to know life generally speaking. Just because you're such an accomplished individual, you've done so many things. What would you tell a younger version of yourself? Do you regret anything? What would you do differently in your life if you could go back in time and do it? Or what advice would you give to a youngster? It could be about money. It could be about health and fitness. It could be about relationships. It could be about the car that you drive. Like, what's some policy that you have in your head that, this is something that that will always do or I should have done better? Anything
You're asking me this with 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask Rick a question.
Sure.
Rick, when does that question become diminishing returns? So if when you get to be 60 and you're asking a 70-year-old, like for me, I don't really regret anything. You know what I regret? Something I did yesterday. You know why? Because that's done. That's said and done. So what I did in my I don't care.
Yeah.
Because I already lived through it and I've worked through it and now I'm where I'm at now. Right. So it's like you're going to get to a point where you're going to ask somebody that question and they're going to be like, Rick, honestly, I don't even care.
Yeah. And you don't want to live your life with one or two colors, right? If you think of great artists, they work with a whole palette of colors. Yeah. And part of the colors in your life are the traumas, the disappointments, and it's what you do after those things happen that really kind of define your character and where you go in life and stuff. So I'm like RJ, I don't regret anything because I think even some of my bad choices, and I made many of those.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, many.
They just kind of, I got to roll it next to my head.
They're all going through my head right now.
I know what was wrong.
Yeah. But they all taught me something about myself, what I might need to consider next time when I'm in a similar situation and stuff like that. So, yeah, and if I thought about it from an advice point to someone else, I would say do as many things as you can, try as many things as you can, and have as many experiences in your life, and be kind to others, because at the end of the day, who cares how nice your car is, how big your house is and stuff, and what really matters is have I been kind to people?
Yeah.
I think that's...
There you go. That's the answer I'm looking for.
You nailed it, buddy.
There it is. Right there.
Boom.
All right, listen, we're going to wrap up the podcast. I want to thank you for coming on and sharing all your experience with us.
Thank you for having me.
Guys, do us a favor. Like, comment, and share this video. And go over to YouTube and go into Fit Club Media and subscribe to the channel. And we're done. So dance it out. Dance it out.
Yeah.
You got the best move so far. He's got the best move so far.
I pulled another muscle. Yeah, I need a massage.
Put some ice on it.
Rub some dirt on it.
Never put ice on it.